yesterday, when talking about relating to fellow monastics or fellow practitioners, you mentioned like this sort of vertical relationships as well as horizontal relationships.
Right.
For me, that kind of like begs the question about like respect. Like, what is respect? And it almost sounds like there's almost like two different flavors of it, or something like that, or how?
Well, I mean, I think one of the things, because it's, how do you say? I mean, there's a lot of different flavors of respect, you know, in the sense of because it's one in, and you know, the sense of respect that one has in terms of, well, maybe it's good to sort of even kind of get some boundaries on what respect actually is, in the sense of, because it's one that maybe there's a sense of, I mean, because it has these different sort of flavors of both of deference as well as care and a sense of appreciation, and so there's all these different flavors that are part of respect, and so that because you think in terms of say like Hiri and Ottappa, you know, in the sense of you know, what the basis of Hiri and Ottappa are, of Hiri being a respect for oneself, and Ottappa, the basis of having concern, is respect for others. So it's a yeah, and I think it's not, because sometimes I mean, it's a word that's not really used in modern English usage that much, and or cultural usage. So, but for, I think from a Buddhist perspective and a perspective on training, then there's a sense of say, like, because of respect, then one is willing to look toward somebody for guidance and example. But then, as one's living with others, then one has a respect for their commitment and their virtue and their sense of being fellow human beings who are suffering, and so then and it's not as if it's one or the other, but it's you know, those are different sort of flavors that go back and forth, really, because also just in terms of when one's living with others as fellow monastics and fellow practitioners, you want to be able to have a certain deference and care, that one's looking after each other, and as well as being ready to either hear perspectives on Dhamma, and it's that respect that opens oneself up to hearing perspectives, or hearing guidance, or hearing some kind of feedback. And so, you know, I mean, I think it's quite multifaceted, and I think it's helpful to reflect on it, because I think there is a tendency, and I heard somebody talk about it I can't remember, it was fairly recently, about that in modern American usage, respect is something that is sort of kind of fear-based, or like, you're trying to command respect, but basically what you're doing is you're trying to make other people fear you. Like and I heard it in particularly in relationship to like a gaming culture, and so that's a whole different ballgame, and is really not what's useful. Because you say something like respect. So like if you think in terms of the like the Mangala Sutta, Karla Vocha, Niva Tocha, those are two things that go together, and those are highest blessings. So Karlava is to being respectful, being respectful of others, towards others, with others, and Niva Tocha is having a certain humility. And so those are quite linked together, and yeah, they're not. I don't think they're out of place. I don't think the Buddha put them out of place just for the fun of it, or just to confuse us. So that sense of Gharlawa there's a quality of humility that is there as a basis, and then the aspect of respect is being conveyed. So yeah, I think those are helpful things to be considering, and also sort of being attentive to what our say our cultural conditioning is in that aspect. Make sense? I'm making this up as I go along. Yeah.
Luang Por, I was poking around the Christian section. Didn't take your best attention to follow, but there was an interesting. One of the writers made a very interesting distinction between celibacy and chastity, saying that chastity was sort of the culmination of celibacy, sort of the bringing it to completion. And I mean, obviously we don't use exactly that language, but I thought there was an interesting, maybe something worth saying around, sort of two levels of the brahmacharya taken to two levels of sort of withdrawal from those things, and if there's any.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure what you say, because there's especially in terms of Christian theology, there's probably a very refined articulation of what it means what chastity means, or what chaste means, and I don't have the background for that. But I think it's probably a good how to say distinction to make, or to reflect on, in terms of celibacy being the renunciation of the sexual pursuit and sexual gratification, and then chastity being more of a state of mind that is results from that. And there's a sutta. It's in the Anguttara Nikaya of the Buddha talking about the different levels of brahmacharya. I can't remember where it is. If there's 5 of them, it's in the Anguttara 5s. But where one is withdrawing from the keeping the precept around relinquishment of the sexual impulse, but then it's also not delighting in conversations and contact and seeking that out, and then not delighting in just sort of the observing and getting fascinated in what others are doing, so there's different levels of that pulling back from the whole entanglement of sexual and sensual pursuits and the stimulation from that. So then that's maybe more of akin to a quality, a mind state of a chaste mind state. So that's a good, because it's one aspect is a pretty crude aspect is just trying to keep the precepts but then the ability of the mind to not get fascinated with memory and proliferation and seeking out stimulation in different ways and then a cultivation of an inner peace and wholeness within oneself, where one is not being pulled into that becoming mode, because it comes back to those roots of the bhavasava. It's sort of the kamasava is one aspect, but then that bhavasava, that underlying root of becoming, of being, defining oneself, being a somebody who has to have somebody else to have to connect with in some way, and so that shift from, so that one's using the celibacy as a foundation, but it has a purpose, and it has it's a helpful tool for one is sort of seeing more clearly that underlying, like asava, that deeply rooted tendency to sensuality, but then the deeply rooted tendency to becoming, to being, having to be somebody, something.
Back to the discussion of respect. One additional element that we seem to be bringing to the West about respect is symbols. In that symbols basically are roads, are goals, are way we do things. Because it's one thing for Westerners are, I think, more comfortable respecting an individual that they really admire. But then we're doing something beyond that. I wonder if you could speak about that.
Yeah, I think it's as one, it takes a while to get a feel for that, and to as one lays that foundation of training, and say like just like Ajahn Chah, treating your alms bowl as if in the same, giving it the same amount of respect that you would the Buddha's head, and particularly in a Thai culture, just anybody's head you don't mess with, and then it's something that you're respectful of their space and but then the Buddha's head is something even higher. So I mean that's a symbol of the living the holy life. So that the robes and the or even I mean something that is you go to Thailand nowadays and there's billboards of cautioning people or asking people not to disrespect Buddha images and either in terms of getting Buddha images and using them as furniture and or going to religious sites and crawling all over Buddhas and getting your selfies on while you're which it happens. So that these are religious, and again, we just don't have that same background, and it isn't something you can just mandate, and you can't tell people about it. But it's more like and I think that's one of the reasons why having say like a monastery and a monastery environment that is well trained, and then there's a sense of maybe not respect, but maybe reverence that people feel toward something that, this is really well done. This feels right somehow. It feels peaceful. It feels inspiring. And people do. So many people come and they say that, and they're, the cement workers, and the guys that come and work on they feel something, and they have a it's something that it's not ordinary, and so the symbols start to mean something because of the context, and they're helpful. I mean, it's helpful to have symbols. They're for and for me, it's like the longer I'm in the robes, the longer I'm in the practice, and actually the more kind of respect I feel for and care that I take around the symbols, and because it's becoming increasingly meaningful. Whereas before, I remember when I first. And before I remember going to one of the first times I went to, I was in Laos, in Luang Por Pasanno, and there's this cave where all these Buddha images, and it was just a bunch of images, statues. I'm out of here. It just didn't have much of a feel for it at all. So it's just, and that's pretty ordinary. So again, it's not something you can mandate, but it's something that one starts to see how it can be helpful. It's like now if I travel somewhere and I'm not going to be in a monastery, then well, even if I am, I usually. I mean, I've got an amulet that I take with me. But it's a reminder. Or if I'm going to be out of a monastery setting for some reason, I've got a little traveling Buddha shrine that I nicely set up. You know, it's. Do I need it? Not really. Do I like it? Yeah. You know, I find it's really, really helpful. You know, I've got something, you know, tangible that I bow to when I go to, you know, in the evening, I bow to in the morning. When I do, you know, it's a helpful reminder. Well, those are, yeah, they're not critical to my existence, but I find it helps to give a certain beauty of expression. And I think that's something that I can remember so often when Ajahn Chah would say criticize or correct us in our conduct. He wouldn't say, "Oh, it's wrong. You're bad." That's not beautiful. And there's something about creating beauty in one's life that the monastic training is really. You know, I think it really facilitates. It gives us an opportunity to create real beauty in the human existence of beautiful conduct, it's like a beautiful shrine, a space that people can come into, and there's a beauty there that is oftentimes, you know, it's easy to forget that the human existence can be a really beautiful experience, and if we're focused on mundane, dreary things, then the life becomes mundane and dreary. But we can actually focus and train ourselves in qualities and things, and do things in a very beautiful way that it's really uplifting for the heart, and both for ourselves as well as for others. And it's I think it's not a small thing.
I always sometimes when a layperson comes to visit and get tea time or something, and they ask you a question, sometimes they can be like kind of coarse in their behavior, they disrespectful in a sense. But sometimes you don't really say anything to them about that, and then you just kind of like, whatever, you know, just keep talking to them and enjoy the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, oftentimes, I mean, you can't really point anything out to somebody or teach them if you don't have a fundamental kind of relationship, and they have some feeling of connection in some way, and and if somebody does something just not really attuned to the situation or the place, and most people are completely out of tune. But if they're not attuned to it, and then you say, "You should do that," I mean, they're out the door and they're gone. They're not back again. And there's no point in that. And if somebody is not respectful, to me, it's no big, or not respectful to the Buddha image. I mean, it doesn't lessen the Buddha image, and it's no skin off my nose. I mean, it just, but it's just sort of, that's not because my existence doesn't depend on or the monastery doesn't depend on it really. I mean, it's just this, we're giving people the opportunity to learn, and if they learn, fine, and if not, fine, and there. And then if people don't learn, and they're going to be gone pretty soon. It's fairly easy.
So, so in terms of manifesting beauty and conduct and sort of manifesting these values and symbols and things, and also part of that for me, part of the brahmacharya, that the core of that is celibacy, and that for the Buddha was obviously extremely important for his training and his monastics. I'm just thinking about how we have the Western cultural context, or Western culture has very little context for that celibacy is somehow a good thing.
Well, I mean, the exact opposite. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, it is something that is yeah, not so familiar, and particularly, I think in general, one would typify American culture as a Protestant culture. So it's even if one's a committed atheist, there's that kind of Protestant value is very strong. So that the yeah, I mean it's something new, but it's not something new in many cultures. In Europe, it's a lot more known, respected, seen as a good thing, and then of course in Asian culture of India, China, Southeast Asia, and it's very much a value that is seen as ordinary, and being able to because also there isn't a renunciant culture in America. It's a very novel concept. But then there's all sorts of things that are quite novel about the say like a Buddhist culture. In the sense of, and particularly Buddhist, as opposed to a spiritual culture, religious seeker culture in say like in India, which is well known. But the aspect of training the mind to be peaceful. I mean, it's something that is not really. It's not a part of modern Western culture, and particularly American culture. And there's enough people around who feel some kind of lack that introducing it is. And the thing is we're not a proselytizing. We're not on a mission, so if people, we sort of set up conditions, and if people are interested, then they'll they can. We're not trying to get anybody to. It's just like that. I mean, everybody here came out of their own interest, and. Yeah, and then in 13 days of 2,000 downloads of Ajahn Chah's biography, I mean, there's some interest out there. So it's so that even though it's not known or hugely familiar, but still there really is an interest and a yearning, and even for and similarly for like in Thailand, which is, that's probably one of the stronger Buddhist cultures, but the number of, say, monastic renunciants that are keeping committed to a celibate lifestyle is a fraction of a percent. It's under 0.1%. So it's it isn't as if it's expected for, and it never has been. But it does inform the society around. It gives options for people who are either interested in that or interested in the values that make for that quality of clarity or peace or yeah. Maybe we should have a bit of a break. We've got to go up the hill for our psalm meeting.
Sadhu